The great hall buzzed with voices from across the galaxy. Aliens of every shape and size filled the seats, their eyes fixed on the voting board. The numbers glowed bright red. 847 votes for, 423 against. Resolution 2,847 had passed. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat perfectly still in her chair. Around her, the other human delegates stared at their hands. They had lost. Again. The motion passes, announced President Thrix, his crystal body catching the light. Humans will now share all military technology with the Council. Human fleets will be limited to 50 ships per sector. Human colonies cannot expand beyond current borders. The Zephyrians cheered, their crystal bodies ringing like bells. The Altrurian collective buzzed happily through their shared mind. Even the usually quiet Korathi waved their tentacles in celebration. Elena remembered when humans first joined the Council 10 years ago. Everyone had welcomed them then. Earth's children were young but eager to learn. They brought fresh ideas and new ways of thinking. The galaxy seemed brighter with humans in it. But that was before the Council saw what humans could really do. It started small. Human doctors found cures for diseases that had killed aliens for centuries. Human engineers built ships that could fly faster and farther than anyone thought possible. Human farmers grew food on dead worlds that fed millions. At first, everyone was happy. But then, some aliens started to worry. They grow too fast, the Zephyrians whispered. They want too much. They think differently, buzzed the Altrurians. Their minds are too wild, too free. They ask too many questions, said the Korathi. They do not follow rules like they should. Fear grew like a cancer. The Council began making new laws. First, humans had to ask permission before exploring new stars. Then, they had to share their inventions with everyone for free. Then they could only build certain types of ships. Each time, Elena and her people protested. They followed the rules. They shared their knowledge. They helped when asked. But it was never enough. We are not your enemies, Elena had said last year. We want to be part of this great community. But the fear was stronger than friendship. Now Elena stood up slowly. The hall fell silent. Every alien eye watched her. They expected her to shout, to argue, to threaten legal action like humans always did. Instead, she reached into her coat and pulled out a small device. She placed it on the speaking platform. The Terran Federation hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council, she said quietly. We invoke Article 12 of the Founding Charter. Voluntary withdrawal. The silence stretched like a held breath. We will remove all human presence from Council space within 90 days, Elena continued. We thank you for the 10 years we shared together. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her fellow humans rose from their seats and followed. No one spoke. No one looked back. President Thrix recovered first. You cannot simply leave. Think of your obligations. Your duties. Elena stopped at the door but did not turn around. Our duties were to help and protect. You have made it clear that our help is not wanted, and our protection is not needed. We respect your choice. She walked out. The doors closed behind the human delegation with a soft whisper. In the hall, aliens looked at each other with confusion. This was not how humans usually acted. Where was the anger? Where were the threats? Where was the drama? Good riddance, muttered a Zephyrian delegate. Others nodded. The humans were gone. The problem was solved. But in the following hours, something strange happened. Reports came in from across the galaxy. Human ships were moving. Not attacking, not threatening, just moving. Every human vessel in Council space had begun heading for the outer rim. On trade stations, human merchants closed their shops. They paid their debts, canceled their contracts, and packed their goods. No arguing, no demands for compensation. They simply left. Human doctors finished treating their patients and walked away from their hospitals. Human teachers completed their lessons and resigned from their schools. Human engineers shut down their projects and deleted their files. Within days, every human in council space was gone. They took nothing that did not belong to them. They left behind facilities, buildings, even gifts they had given to alien friends. They just disappeared. The council members told themselves this was victory. The dangerous humans were gone. The galaxy was safe. But some aliens felt uneasy. The Korathi merchant, Vex High, watched the human trade ships disappear into hyperspace and felt a chill in his heart. Those ships carried goods that connected dozens of worlds. Who would replace them? Dr. Zealmoth of the Altrurian medical caste stood in her empty laboratory. Human researchers had worked here just yesterday. Their advanced healing machines still hummed quietly. But without humans to operate them, they were just expensive boxes. On the frontier worlds, colonial administrators stared at abandoned human installations. The humans had built power plants, water purifiers, and defense grids. They had left instruction manuals, but the manuals were written for human minds. No one else understood how the systems really worked. Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour as it jumped to hyperspace. Earth and its colonies lay ahead. Behind them, council space grew smaller and smaller. Think they'll realize what they've done? Asked Commander Chen. Elena watched the stars stretch into lines. Eventually, but by then, it will be too late. For them or for us. Elena smiled sadly. For them. We'll be fine. We always are. The ship disappeared into the void, carrying humanity away from a galaxy that no longer wanted them. In the silence of space, no one could hear the Council's future breaking. 3 months had passed since the humans left. The Galactic Council tried to pretend everything was normal. But cracks were starting to show. General Vraktar of the Voss hegemony stared at the tactical display with growing horror. Red icons showed where his fleets used to be. Now there was only empty space and debris. How many ships lost? He growled. 47 this week, sir, replied his aide. The Shikari keep hitting us where we don't expect. Vraktar's claws dug into his command chair. For 2 years, the Voss had been fighting the Shikari Empire over border systems. It was supposed to be an easy war. The Voss were proud warriors with the strongest ships in their sector. But they had been losing steadily since the humans left. Before, human advisors had helped plan their battles. The humans never fought on the front lines. They said they preferred to think rather than bleed. Voss warriors had mocked them as cowards who hid behind computers. Now those same warriors were dead, and their fleets were burning. The Shikari are using some new tactic, the aide continued. They hit our supply lines, then disappear before we can respond. Vraktar wanted to roar with frustration. It was not a new tactic. It was an old human tactic. The humans had tried to teach it to them years ago, but the Voss had rejected it as dishonorable. Real warriors fought face to face, not like sneaking children. But the Shikari had no such honor. They had learned from the humans and used that knowledge against the Voss. Send a message to the remaining fleet commanders, Vraktar ordered. Full retreat to home system. It hurt to say those words. But better alive and shamed than dead and proud. Far across the galaxy, Dr. Hilnara of the Altrurian Collective faced her own crisis. The plague had started small. Just a few shared minds going quiet. But now, whole colonies were falling silent. The disease attacked the mental links that connected all Altrurians. When someone got sick, they lost their connection to the collective. They became isolated, alone in their own heads. For a species that had shared thoughts for millions of years, it was worse than death. Hilnara stood in the medical center that had once buzzed with human activity. The machines were still here, amazing devices that could heal at the cellular level. But they might as well have been rocks. Have we made any progress? She asked her assistant. No, doctor. We cannot understand how the nanomedical units function. The human manuals use concepts we do not recognize. Hilnara's frustration echoed through the local collective mind, making everyone in the building feel her pain. The humans had used these machines to keep the plague under control. They had offered to teach Altrurian doctors how they worked. But the collective had been proud. Altrurian medical knowledge was thousands of years old. What could these young humans possibly teach them? Now she knew. They could have taught everything. Keep trying, she ordered, and send another message to human space. Beg them if you have to. She had been sending messages for weeks. All of them met the same fate. Complete silence. The humans were not even acknowledging that the messages existed. On Korathi Prime, merchant Prince Velkoth watched his trade empire crumble in real time. Numbers flowed across his screens, each one worse than the last. The Rigel trade route has collapsed, reported his finance minister. Velkoth's tentacles writhed with anxiety. The Rigel route connected 12 systems and carried goods worth billions of credits each year. Human ships had maintained the route for 5 years, fighting off pirates and managing the complex timing needed to make it profitable. What about the backup carriers? The Daxian Shipping Consortium tried to take over. Pirates destroyed their entire convoy. Velkoth made a gesture of despair. The humans had not just carried cargo. They had been guardians. Their mere presence had kept the trade lanes safe. Pirates knew better than to attack ships under human protection. And the manufacturing centers? Production is down 60% across all facilities. We cannot replicate human efficiency protocols. The protocols had seemed simple when humans used them. Just better ways to organize work and manage resources. But the reality was more complex. Human efficiency came from human thinking, the ability to see patterns and solve problems that other species missed. Sir, the minister continued carefully, the other merchant houses are demanding answers. Some are talking about withdrawing from the alliance. The Korathi Trade Alliance had been Velkoth's greatest achievement. 12 species working together for mutual profit. But it had been built on human foundations. Without those foundations, everything was falling apart. Send envoys to human space, Velkoth ordered. Offer them anything they want. We have tried, sir. They will not respond to any communication. In the council chambers, President Thrix called an emergency session. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss the growing crisis. The situation is temporary, he announced, his crystal body resonating with forced confidence. We are experiencing minor disruptions as systems adjust to new realities. But the reports told a different story. Trade was down 40% and falling. 3 systems had gone dark completely. The Voss-Shakari War was spreading to neutral territories. Refugee ships crowded the main travel lanes, fleeing conflicts that the Council could no longer mediate. Perhaps we should reconsider, suggested a Korathi delegate. The humans made some valuable contributions. Maybe we were too hasty. Azar. Absolutely not, Thrix replied. The humans were dangerous. Their influence was corrupting our traditional ways. We are better off without them. But even as he spoke, he wondered if that was true. A report on his desk detailed the failure of the Centauri mining operation. The Zephyrians had taken it over after the humans left, confident that their crystal technology made them natural miners. It had been a disaster. They could not understand human gravity manipulation techniques. The equipment was too complex. The procedures too alien to crystal-based thinking. 3 Zephyrians had died when a tunnel collapsed, and production had stopped completely. The session ended with more platitudes and empty promises. As delegates filed out, many shared the same thought. Maybe calling the humans back was worth considering. But when they tried to send messages to human space, they found something disturbing. The communications were not just being ignored. They were being actively blocked. Human space had gone completely silent. No traffic, no signals, no sign that anyone was listening. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the galaxy. And in that silence, fear began to grow. 1 year. 1 year since the humans disappeared, and the galaxy was dying. Dr. Yixilith stood in what used to be the Council's Grand Assembly Hall. Now, it was just a large room with broken furniture and failing lights. Half the member species had withdrawn from the Council. The others were too busy fighting their own disasters to attend meetings. She looked at the reports scattered across the old president's desk. President Thrix had resigned 6 months ago when the Zephyrian Republic split into 3 warring factions. No one wanted the job after that. The Korathi hegemony was gone. Not just withdrawn, gone. Their last ship had been found drifting in space 2 weeks ago. Life support failed. Crew dead. No one left alive knew how to fix the systems that kept their people breathing. The Voss had been completely conquered by the Shikari Empire. General Vraktar had died defending his homeworld. But courage could not replace strategy. Without human tactical support, the proud Voss warriors had been simply target practice for Shikari guns. Even worse, the Shikari were not stopping. They had learned human military techniques and used them to build a war machine that terrified the remaining Council species. System after system fell to their advance. "Doctor," came a voice from the doorway. It was Sub-Commander HFY, one of the few Korathi who had escaped when their civilization collapsed. "We have another problem." Yixilith wanted to laugh. Another problem. As if they did not have enough already. What now? Theta Centauri mining station, complete failure. The asteroid mining station had been humanity's pride, a massive operation that provided raw materials to half the galaxy. When the humans left, the Zephyrians had seized it immediately. They were experts with crystal technology, they claimed. Mining should be easy for them. How bad? The main shaft collapsed yesterday. 17 Zephyrian workers dead. The gravity generators failed completely. They cannot figure out how to restart them. Yixilith closed her eyes. The Theta Centauri station fed ore to hundreds of worlds. Entire industries depended on it. Without those materials, more planets would fall into chaos. Any word from the Altrurian medical centers? HFY's expression grew darker. The plague has spread to their core worlds. They estimate 50 million minds lost so far. 50 million Altrurians, cut off from their shared consciousness, going insane from isolation. The human nanomedical technology could have stopped it, but the machines were too complex for anyone else to operate. They sat unused, while an entire species slowly died. Food riots on Kepler Station have spread to the civilian sections. HFY continued. The hydroponic farms have been failing since the human agricultural specialists left. People are starving. What about the emergency supplies? Delayed. The transport convoy was attacked by pirates in the Outer Rim. No human patrol ships to protect them anymore. Non one. Yixilith sank into her chair. Everything was connected. When humans ran the shipping lanes, pirates stayed hidden. When humans managed the farms, everyone ate. When humans mediated conflicts, wars stayed small and local. The galaxy had grown around humanity like a plant around a support beam. When the humans left, everything collapsed. "There is one more thing," HFY said quietly. "We received a response to our apology messages." Yixilith sat up straight. For months, she had been sending messages to human space. Apologies. Pleas for help. Offers of anything they wanted in return for assistance. What did they say? HFY handed her a datapad. The message was short. Council authority not recognized. Contact requests denied. Sender blocked. It was not even signed. Just a cold, automatic response. "That is it?" Yixilith asked. "That is it. And there is something else." The message did not come from the Terran Federation government. Our communication specialists traced it to an automated system. The humans are not even bothering to read our messages personally. Well, see no. 17 Reaper. Our Lebanon times 17. The weight of that hit her like a physical blow. The humans were not angry. They were not hurt. They simply did not care anymore. She thought about Elena Vasquez, the human ambassador who had walked out of the council chambers a year ago. Elena had always been patient, always willing to explain human positions, always hoping for compromise. Now she probably did not even remember the council existed. Doctor, Kexai said hesitantly, there are rumors. Some of the outer colonies are saying they have seen human ships. What kind of ships? Not like the ones we remember. Bigger. Stranger. The reports do not make much sense. Now, Yixilith wanted to ignore the rumors, but she had learned to pay attention to even wild stories. Too many impossible things had happened since the humans left. What do the reports say? Ships that appear and disappear without using hyperspace. Technology that does not match anything in our databases. Some colonies claim human vessels have been watching them from a distance, but when they try to make contact, the ships vanish. A chill ran through Yixilith's spine. What if the humans had not just left? What if they had been advancing? She thought about human technology. Even a year ago, it had been impressive but understandable. Humans were clever, but they followed the same physical laws as everyone else. But what if they had found new laws? What if isolation had forced them to innovate in ways the Council could not imagine? Send a message to all remaining member worlds, she ordered. Tell them to compile any reports of human activity, no matter how strange or unbelievable. Doctor, do you think? I think we may have made the biggest mistake in galactic history, she said quietly. And I think we are about to learn the price. Outside the broken windows of the council building, ships moved through the space lanes. But they were not the sleek, efficient vessels that had once carried the galaxy's trade and dreams. These were desperate refugee ships, military vessels fleeing, losing wars, and transport craft trying to hold together a collapsing civilization. The Golden Age was over. The time when humanity had helped bind the galaxy together was finished. Now everyone would learn what the galaxy looked like without human hands to guide it. And in the deep darkness between stars, those human hands were building something new. Dr. Yixilith stood before the assembled fleet commanders in what used to be the Council's war room. The hologram showed 18 ships, every fast vessel the remaining Council species could spare. This is our only chance, she announced. We must find the humans and force them to negotiate. Commander Zorbath of the Voss Remnant Fleet nodded grimly. He was one of the few Voss military leaders who had survived the Shikari conquest. His ship carried the last free members of his species. My scouts report human activity in the Outer Rim, he said. We can track them. Captain Velnara of the Korathi Defense Corps looked skeptical. The humans have ignored every attempt at communication for 18 months. What makes you think they will listen now? 1. Because we will not give them a choice, Yixilith replied. We will find their leaders and make them understand the situation. They are still people. They must have some compassion left. Dr. Kithara, the expedition's xenobiologist, studied the star charts. The energy signatures our sensors detect in former human space are unusual, much stronger than anything we recorded before. They have probably improved their technology, Zorbath said. Humans were always good at that. The fleet launched 3 days later. Their mission was simple: find humanity and bring back help. The galaxy was dying without them. The journey to the edge of human space took 2 weeks. At first, everything seemed normal. Empty systems, abandoned stations, the familiar debris of old conflicts. But as they moved deeper into what had been human territory, things began to change. The first sign was the energy readings. Every star system they entered hummed with power on a scale they had never seen before. Not just ships or stations. Entire solar systems were generating massive amounts of energy. "Look at this," Dr. Cathara called out, staring at her instruments. "The star Kepler 442 is surrounded by some kind of structure. On the main screen, they could see a faint lattice of metal and energy surrounding the star like a shell. It stretched millions of kilometers, capturing and channeling the star's power." "A Dyson sphere," breathed Zorbath. "The humans built a Dyson sphere." But that was just the beginning. As they moved through system after system, they found impossible constructions everywhere. Asteroid belts had been completely dismantled and turned into vast manufacturing complexes. Planets had been surrounded by orbital rings covered in cities and factories. "The scale is unbelievable," reported Captain Velnara. "These construction projects would take centuries with our technology." "How long have they been building?" asked Ixilith. "Based on the energy signatures, most of this was completed in the last year," Dr. Cathara replied. "They are building faster than should be possible." The first human ship they encountered was unlike anything in their databases. It was sleek and angular, made of materials that seemed to absorb light. When their scanners tried to analyze it, the readings made no sense. "Unknown vessel. This is the Galactic Council Expeditionary Fleet." Zorbath broadcast. "Please respond." The human ship moved without any visible propulsion. It flowed through space like liquid metal, approaching their formation with impossible grace. Then it spoke, not through radio, but directly into their minds. "Council vessels are not authorized in this region. Depart immediately." The voice was calm, mechanical, utterly without emotion. "We request an audience with human leadership." Yixilith broadcast. "The galaxy needs help. Council authority is not recognized. Depart immediately." The human ship began to circle their formation. As it moved, more ships appeared from nowhere. Dozens of them, surrounding the Council fleet. "We are not leaving until you talk to us," Zorbath declared, powering up his weapons. The response was immediate. Every human ship vanished. Not cloaked. Vanished. One moment they were there, the next they were gone without any energy signature, any hyperspace jump, any sign they had ever existed. "What just happened?" Captain Velnara whispered. Their sensors showed empty space, but they could feel something watching them. Dr. Cathara worked frantically at her station, trying to make sense of the readings. "The quantum signatures are off the charts. They are manipulating space-time itself." "That is impossible," Zorbath protested. "No one has that kind of technology." "Apparently, humans do now." The fleet continued deeper into human territory, but they could not find anyone willing to talk. Human installations were everywhere, but they were automated. When the Council ships tried to approach, the installations simply ignored them. It was like being invisible. "Try the old human colonies," Yixilith suggested. "Maybe some humans stayed behind." They found the colonies, but they were empty. Not destroyed, not abandoned. Empty. The buildings were intact. The systems still running. But no people lived there anymore. "It is like they all just left," Captain Velnara observed. "Or evolved beyond the need for planets," Dr. Cathara said quietly. On the 5th day of their search, they finally encountered something that would communicate with them. It was not a ship or a station, but a probe, a small device that appeared next to their fleet without warning. "Council vessels," it said, in that same emotionless voice. "You are documenting classified human installations. This behavior will cease. Lan. If you have tentam." "We just want to talk," Yixilith pleaded. "Our people are dying. Council welfare is not a human concern. Depart immediately or face removal." "Removal?" Zorbath challenged. "Are you threatening us?" "Stating fact. You have 10 minutes to begin departure." The probe vanished. Zorbath wanted to stay and fight, but Dr. Kithara's readings were terrifying. The human installations around them were powering up, generating energy levels that could destroy planets. "We leave," Yixilith ordered. "Now." As their fleet retreated, Dr. Kithara compiled her observations. What she found changed everything. "The humans are not just ignoring us," she told the assembled commanders. "They have moved beyond us. Their technology, their thinking, their entire civilization has evolved past anything we understand." "What do you mean?" asked Yixilith. "They are not using ships anymore. They are using controlled space-time manipulation. They are not living on planets. They are living in constructs that exist partially outside normal reality. They have become something new." The truth hit them all like a hammer blow. Humanity had not just left the Council. They had left the Council behind. They had transcended the level of civilization where the Council mattered. "Could they return to our space if they wanted?" Zorbath asked. Dr. Kithara nodded grimly. "They could probably conquer the entire galaxy without breaking a sweat. The question is not whether they care. It is whether they care." The fleet returned to Council space with devastating news. Humanity was not going to save them, because humanity no longer needed to think about them at all. The Council had made the humans irrelevant to their civilization. Now the humans had returned the favor. 5 years. 5 years since the humans walked away. And Dr. Yixilith barely recognized the galaxy anymore. She floated in the emergency command center of Station Haven, a repurposed cargo facility that served as the Council's last headquarters. The grand chambers on the Council homeworld had been abandoned when the power grid failed and no one could fix it. Only 7 species remained in the Council. 17 others had withdrawn, conquered, or simply vanished as their civilizations collapsed. The Great Alliance that once spanned thousands of stars now controlled less than 50 systems. Yixilith reviewed the final casualty reports on her damaged tablet. The numbers were almost too large to understand. 3 billion dead from wars. 2 billion from famines. 1 billion from plagues and system failures. Entire species extinct. The Korathi were gone. The Voss were gone. The proud Zephyrians had been reduced to scattered refugee camps. Even the mighty Altrurian collective had fractured. Their shared minds, broken by isolation and fear. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Kexhai, one of the last Korathi survivors, "we are receiving a transmission on all frequencies." Yixilith looked up wearily. "From whom?" "Unknown source. But the signal is coming from the outer rim." She followed him to the communications center. The transmission was playing on repeat, not in any alien language, but in perfect galactic standard. "Attention all sapient species. The Terran Confederation announces the opening of diplomatic relations with qualifying civilizations. We offer protection, trade partnerships, and technological exchange to species that meet our membership requirements." Yixilith's heart stopped beating for a moment. Membership requirements include demonstrated peaceful conflict resolution capabilities, respect for individual sapient rights, rejection of authoritarian collective governance structures, and a commitment to mutual cooperation. Species with a history of aggressive expansion or oppression of member civilizations will not be considered. The message continued with technical details, coordinates for embassy stations, application procedures, trade protocols. It was all very professional and efficient. Then came the final line that made Yixilith's blood turn to ice. Former Galactic Council membership automatically disqualifies candidacy for Terran Confederation membership. This policy is permanent and non-negotiable. The message ended. The communications room fell silent. "Play it again," Yixilith whispered. She listened 3 more times before the full meaning sank in. The humans were rebuilding galactic civilization, but they were not rebuilding it with the Council. They were rebuilding it without them. "Ma'am," Kexhai said quietly, "we are receiving withdrawal notifications." "From whom?" "Everyone. The Daxians, the Hegemony Remnants, the Free Colonies Alliance. All of our remaining members are withdrawing to apply for Terran Confederation membership. Yixilith watched her tablet as formal notices arrived one after another. By the end of the hour, only 3 species remained in the Council, and 2 of those were single-ship refugee populations. How many embassy stations did they list? She asked. 47. Scattered throughout former Council space. 47 stations. That meant the humans already controlled most of the galaxy again. But this time, they controlled it through willing cooperation, not forced membership. Ma'am, Kexhai continued. Some of the withdrawal notices mention that their applications have already been approved. What do you mean, already approved? The humans have been evaluating species for months. The Daxians received acceptance 3 days ago. The hegemony remnants were approved last week. They just had to formally withdraw from the Council first. The truth hit her like a physical blow. The humans had been planning this for years. They had watched the Council collapse, identified the species worth saving, and quietly prepared to rebuild civilization around them. They had planned everything except saving the Council itself. Yixilith made her way to the observation deck and stared out at the stars. In the distance, she could see ships moving. Not the desperate refugee vessels that had crowded these lanes for years, but sleek new craft flying with purpose and hope. The new Confederation ships were beautiful. They moved with the same impossible grace she had seen during the reconnaissance mission. But now there were thousands of them, carrying trade and passengers between worlds that had been cut off from civilization for years. "Doctor," came a voice behind her. It was Captain Velnara, now the senior military officer of the dying Council. Long-range sensors are picking up massive construction in the former neutral zone. What kind of construction? Habitat rings, industrial complexes, defensive platforms. It looks like they are building a new capital system, from scratch. Of course they were. The humans would not want to use any world that had belonged to the old Council. They were starting fresh, building something completely new. Any word from our last diplomatic attempts? Velnara shook her head. All messages are returned with the same automated response. Council authority not recognized. Yixilith almost laughed. The humans had turned their own words against them. The Council had told humanity their authority was not recognized. Now humanity was saying the same thing. "Ma'am," Kexhai called from the communication station. "We are receiving a direct transmission. It is addressed to you personally." Yixilith hurried back to the communications center. The transmission was short and came from an unknown sender. "Dr. Yixilith, former acting council president. Your species has submitted an application for Confederation membership. Application denied due to prior council affiliation. This decision is final. Personal recommendation. Consider individual colony applications under refugee protection protocols. Some of your people may qualify. Signed, E. Vasquez, Confederation External Affairs. Elena Vasquez, the human ambassador who had walked out of the council chambers 5 years ago. She was offering a way out for some council survivors, but not for the council itself. It was the only mercy they were going to get. Yixilith closed her eyes and remembered the day the humans left. She had thought they were being dramatic, emotional, typically human. She had expected them to come back within weeks, begging for readmission. Instead, they had become gods. "Prepare individual applications for all surviving personnel," she ordered. "Split us up across multiple colonies. Apply as refugees, not as a government." "Ma'am?" Kexhai looked confused. "The Galactic Council is dead. Has been dead for years. We just kept pretending it was still alive." She walked to the main console and entered her command codes. A few keystrokes, and the Galactic Council officially dissolved. Thousands of years of history ended with a simple computer command. Outside the station, a human ship glided past. It was massive and beautiful, carrying passengers to some distant world where they would build new lives under human protection. The ship did not slow, did not acknowledge the dying council station. It simply continued on its way, carrying the future to places where the past could not follow. Yixalith watched it disappear into hyperspace. The humans had won by doing the one thing the council never expected. They had made themselves dispensable, then proven everyone else was dispensable too. The galaxy belonged to humanity now. Not through conquest, but through simple superiority. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, Elena Vasquez was probably smiling.